The Braves have now acquired and extended Chris Sale, and I've been a Braves fan for 28 years. Basically, I have had season tickets to the Braves since I grew up out of the womb, sitting behind home plate. I love this team like nobody loves this team. I know it. I used to be able to name the lineups coming up as like a 7-year-old kid. I can never remember a team, a pitching staff as deep as this one, not 90s included. You had the top guys, you had the 3 Cy Young candidates and everything, but there's literally 20 guys on this staff. When you talk about Ian Anderson, Huascar Ynoa, and all those guys, Hurston Waldrop, AJ Smith-Shawver, that I'm going to be excited for them to take the mound next year. And I've never been able to say that about a Braves team my entire life. And I don't think you can say that about many organizations ever.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with the Braves pitching staff is there's a blend, a mix of different guys. You've got your high leverage relievers, you've got your aces, you've got your, solid middle of the rotation guys, your solid relievers, and then you got high upside guys, and then you got lottery tickets. So you have guys that you can absolutely count on. You have guys that you know what they're going to do. They're not going to be stars, but you can still count on them. And then you've got your guys who could turn into nothing, or they could be heroes. Anthopoulos has done it time and time again where he finds diamonds in the rough. And I think that this pitching staff has a lot of that. Obviously, you have Max Fried, Spencer Strider at the top of the rotation. Behind them, you've got Chris Sale, Charlie Morton, the grizzled veterans. And then in that fifth spot, Bryce Elder's probably going to get the fifth spot, the nod out of spring training. But then after him, you've got AJ Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrop, Ian Anderson, Huascar Ynoa returning from injury. And the bullpen is set up exactly the same way. In fact, I'd argue there's more top-end talent in the bullpen than there is the rotation. And obviously, that's just because there's more guys in the bullpen. But still, Alex Anthopoulos has just bolstered this pitching staff to no ends.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't count out AJ Smith-Shawver having a huge role in this pitching staff this year. He was a guy that they're extremely excited about. If they weren't that excited about him, we'd have Dylan Cease or someone like that. They wouldn't have traded Vaughn Grissom for Chris Sale. Hurston Waldrop, another guy we could see making an impact. And I mentioned Ian Anderson, but, watch out for him. Coming off Tommy John, I think his struggles before that, you can probably put those on the injuries. He had a shoulder issue. He had an elbow injury. He obviously had Tommy John surgery. Huascar Ynoa, we talk about him. And then, there's even guys like Darius Vines and Alan Winans and stuff like that. Yes, you're not excited about them, but they are quality depth when you're talking about 11th, 12th guys and that can potentially make a start for you. Ronaldo Lopez, you mentioned him. He could be making some starts for this team, but I'd rather probably use him in the bullpen. You re-sign Joe Jimenez, Pierce Johnson. Obviously, we know about AJ Minter and Raisel Iglesias, but Tyler Matzek coming back, Nutsack coming back. Let's go. And then Dylan Lee potentially coming back, Aaron Bummer. There's just so many guys. There's legitimately 20. Think about that. There's 13 pitchers that can be on a roster at any given time. The Braves have 20 guys that are major league ready and can contribute and contribute well at any given moment.
Yeah, I think an interesting fact in all of this is the flexibility. Like you mentioned, up around 20 guys that could play on a major league roster this season. And one guy in particular, Ronaldo Lopez, can give the front office flexibility and say they keep 8 relievers and, kind of keep Ronaldo Lopez as that fifth starter or vice versa. So I think that Ronaldo Lopez, even if he isn't giving you 5 innings like a true starter maybe would, 5-6 innings, Ronaldo Lopez could start a game in a pinch as that 6th starter. And there's so much depth in the Braves bullpen that you can go to that 6-man rotation. And though that Ronaldo Lopez isn't a true starter, he can still give you some legs. So I think the whole, approach to the offseason was very clear. Overkill the pitching staff, specifically the bullpen, and flexibility, a balance so that when a situation presents itself, Brian Snitker has all the cards in his pocket to kind of answer the call in the game. And whether that be, a lefty righty, there's now balance in the rotation. There's now balance in the bullpen. A guy that can give you length, right? Like Ronaldo Lopez. There's studs, Max Fried, Spencer Strider, but you also have the experience in Charlie Morton and Chris Sale. So I think that what I take away from this is there's just so much balance in this pitching staff.
Yeah, You're talking about a rotation in 2020 that had Robbie Erlin and Tommy Malone and made the NLCS on the back of their offense. Then in 2021, even that pitching depth. I mean, I've talked about it at length. It wasn't like the night shift wasn't the night shift until that postseason run. They really weren't that good. It was a very average bullpen the entire season. They just stepped up at the playoffs. And Charlie Morton goes down. We have Dylan Lee and a Kyle Wright before he was Kyle Wright making starts. Yeah, you won the World Series, but then last year, obviously, 2022, you know about the injuries. 2023, you know about the injuries. I think people are going to be shocked at how this all turns out over the course of the season and how important those 9th and 10th starters are and how important those extra relievers are and how important going to a 6-man rotation and keeping these guys fresh, especially when you have guys on the roster that are older like Morton and Sale, guys on the roster that have dealt with minor injuries, Spencer Strider, Max Fried, obviously Chris Sale. We talked about that at the top of the show. So I think they're going to be shocked at how much of an impact this depth is going to have, not just in the starting rotation, but in the bullpen and how it affects the team the entire season and how Brian Snitker operates. There's not going to be a lot of guys going 6, 7, 8 innings. Yes, if you're absolutely dealing, sure, you can go to 100 pitchers, but I don't think we're going to see that happen very often because you do have so many options and you might go to a 6-man rotation and stuff like, especially Sale. I mean, talk about a guy, high strikeout rate, did not go very deep into games. They are not going to push him this season. They are going to be very cautious with all these guys because what we've seen in the last 2 seasons, and that was clearly the focus of the offseason, and Alex Anthopoulos was able to do all that by just giving up Vaughn Grissom. That's all he had to do and spending a little money. Shout out Liberty Media and the guys that make those decisions. They have lived up to the billing and the promises that they made. But it's a great offseason, guys. I really think people are going to be excited because this depth is something the Braves have never had over the course of this run and something the Braves, I don't remember them having at any point in my lifetime, despite how good some of the rotations have been.
No, it's clear the offseason was geared for October. It's no longer about the regular season. It's all about the postseason. I love it.
Coming up after the break, Michigan and Washington in the playoff championship. We are going to discuss it.